Hi everyone, welcome to the final summary session on introduction to the joy of Python programming using Python. So let's wait for 4 minutes so that everyone can join, and then we'll start the session. Hmm. So, hi everyone, am I audible? Can anyone just confirm? Great. So let's wait for a few more minutes so that everyone can join, and then we'll start our session. So, welcome everyone. Let's start this session. We should start this session. So, I hope my screen is visible. So, for this session, what I have done is I have taken some program. So, throughout this session, what we were doing is we were taking some basic problems related to the topics that were being taught during the some week, and then we saw some MCQ problems for from those topics. Now, for today's session, what I have done is I have combined a set of programming problems that I will be solving for you guys as throughout this session. If there is a question that you believe that need not to be answered in this session, you can ask me to just skip it. Fine. But if anyone of you has the doubt for that question, I will solve it for you guys. Fine. So I hope this makes up for the some revision session. So let's start. Mm, Python and page Kumar. Today is Saturday, 12th October 4. So today is Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. Fine. 2 to 4. Let's start. So let's get back to our first question. So we have to accept two positive integers m and as input. There are two cases to consider. If m is less than n, then print m as output. If m is greater than equals to n, subtract n from m, call the difference m1. And if m1 is greater than equals to n, then subtract n from m1 and call the difference m2. Keep doing operation until you reach the value case such that mk is less than m. Then you have to print the value of mk as output. Fine. Everyone, do you understand the problem? So let's say we have two positive integers m equals to 10 and n equals to 20. In this case, what you have to do? You have to simply return 10. Fine, because m is less than n. Now let's say if n was 5, then what I have to do? Then subtract n from m. So m equals to m minus n, which is equals to 5. And let's call this value m1. So m1 equals to 5. Now, you see, if is 5 less than 5? 5 is less than 5? No. Then what you have to do? You have to update m2 equals to 5 minus 5, which is 0. Now m2 is 0, which is less than n. So we have to return 0. Fine. This is what this program asks us to do. So anyone, do you want me to answer this question for you guys? Okay, fine. So I'll be using functions for all the problems that we'll be solving today. So I hope that will cover up for the functions part also. You will be get familiar with functions in Python. Fine. So let me write the function def. So let me open up the problem. Uh, def, let's say solve. I call the function solve, and we have two inputs m comma n. Now, what is the first case? If m is less than n, then what we have to do? We have to return m. Else, what we have to do? We have to update m equals. We have to just simply return solve m minus n. Right? Let's call this function first for a check. For a check, let's say we have 5 comma 10, then it outputs 5. Now let's say it was 10 comma 5, then the output should be 0. Oh, yeah. So there is a mistake in the function definition. Huh. Solve m minus n comma n. Fine. Let's call the function for 10 comma 5. So you can see the output is 0. Now let's increase the value of m and see. Huh, fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this problem? Please type in the chat box. It was a quite straightforward function. Just one thing that is important here is I have used recursion. So I hope every one of you is now familiar with recursion. So recursion is a way of programming in which a function calls itself, and it can be used where multiple iterations are required. So let's say for this case, we wanted to run this function and again until unless m becomes less than n. That's why we have this base case. For all recursive programs, there is a base case, and then there is a recursive case. So in this recursive case, what I'm doing, if I'm in base case, if m is less than n, I'm returning the value of m. If it's not less than m, then what I'm doing, I'm returning the return value obtained by the function called solve m minus n. So basically I'm deducting n from m and passing n again. So this is how this function works. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Fine. Let's move on to the next question. The problem is accept three positive integers as input and check if they form the sides of a right triangle. Print yes if they form one, and no if they do not. The input would have three lines with one integer on each line. The output should be a single line containing. Okay, fine. So the problem is you have to accept three positive integers and check if they form the sides of a right angled triangle. So what someone is saying in question one, it runs till 0 or so. Look, in the problem statement, you can say we have to accept two positive integers, m and n. Fine. The problem itself says they have to be positive and integers. That's it. So let's say what's the least positive integer that you choose? You can choose one. Fine. If m is any number, you keep subtracting one from one. It ultimately will reach to 0. So there are no negative values because m and n both are positive integers. And when you subtract this positive integer from some value, we didn't define positive in our function. No, the problem says that they are positive. So why should we define positive in our function? It's in the problem statement itself. Fine. So let's get to the next question. So what are the property of a right angled triangle? Right triangle. Fine. For any triangle is formed by three edges, and let's say we are given the three edge lengths. So let's say the edges are edge. So let's say this is our right angle triangle. Fine. So this is 90 degree. So this is base. This is hypotenuse. So let's call them base, X, Y, and hypotenuse. Fine. This is a basic right angle triangle, and we all know the property that x squared plus y squared equals to h squared. Everyone, do you know this property? This is the property that you need to identify. So, and the next thing that we know is, let's say we have a value h, which is square root of h squared is equals to x squared plus y squared. So, is this possible that either x or y have values greater than h? Can anyone tell me? Like, let's say I'm saying 2 squared plus 3 squared is equals to 9 or 4. 13. Fine. So we all know that these individual values can never be greater than 13. So 2 squared cannot be greater than 13 and 3 squared also cannot be greater than 13, because squaring a number always results in a positive value until unless we are dealing with imaginary numbers, and for us right now it's a triangle and triangle has non-imaginary edge lengths. Fine. So we all know that the hypotenuse length is maximum. So for any set of three numbers, we'll know that the length having the side having maximum length is the hypotenuse, and we can use the Pythagorean theorem to check if the are compatible. Fine. So let's say let's write up. Everyone, do you understand the logic? So what we do? So let's say we are given three edge lengths x. Let's say edge lengths. We are given x comma y comma z. So first define hypotenuse h equals to max of x comma y comma z. Now let's say the remaining two are x comma y. Then if x raised power 2 plus y raised power 2 equals to h raised power 2, then what we can say? Right triangle, else not a right triangle. Fine, everyone? Do you have any doubts? So let's write this program. Just interrupt me whenever you feel that you have some doubts. Fine. Let's check right triangle. Fine, let's take the edge values. Fine. So yeah, let's define hypotenuse equals to max of x, y, z. And let's define two other edge lengths, a comma a and b. So a equals to y equals to x if h not equals to x. So let's do this like this. If um just 1 second, let me check Python next function. Right. So if x equals to h, if the hypotenuse was h, then a equals to y, b equals to z. Okay. If y is the hypotenuse, then a equals to x, b equals to z, else a equals to x, b equals to y. Fine. Now we have, okay, sorry. So now we have all the edge lengths. Now what we need to do, we need to simply apply the Pythagorean theorem. Theorem, theorem to check. So just check if a raised power 2 plus b raised power 2 equals to h raised power 2. Oh, shit. Um, yeah. Okay. If this is the case, what you have to do, return or simply print. Don't return anything. Print the triangle is a right triangle, else the tri is an ordinary triangle. Fine. Now check right triangle. And let's pass some random values. Let's say 2, 3, 4. Let's see what it says. So that it says that the triangle is an ordinary triangle. Fine. Fine. Anyone do have any doubts in this program? Now we already know that 3, 4, and 5 make up a right triangle. We can see it says it is a right triangle. Fine. Anybody do you have any doubts in this program? Please type in the chat box. Great. Let's move on to the next question. So accept a string as input. Your task is to determine if the input string is a valid password or not. Fine. So we are giving an input and you have to define if it's a valid password or not. For the string to be a valid password, it must satisfy all the conditions given below. It should have at least 8 and at most 32 characters. It should start with an uppercase or lowercase letter. It should not have any of these characters. It should not have spaces. Fine. So do you want to solve me this program? Anyone? So let's say we are giving some random string and you want to identify if it's a valid password or not, depending on some conditions. The conditions are given here. So anyone, do you want me to solve this program? Fine. So I believe we should look into this problem. So then let's solve this. It's pretty simple. So let's do this. So what are the acceptable things? It should have at least 8 and at most 32 characters. It should start with uppercase or a lowercase letter. It should not have any of these characters. It should not have any spaces. Fine. So let's def check valid password and someone gives in some password. So let's define valid characters R A B C D G H R string dot ask. ASCII. We can use simply string dot ASCII. Let me first check. Let us import the string library first and then string dot ASCII. Okay, why there is no string dot ASCII? Let me check first. What's up? ASCII letters. It's string dot ASCII letters. ASCII. Fine. So let's get back to our function. Def ASCII. So it gives us a valid correct list of string containing valid characters. Let's define invalid characters. The invalid characters are uh, these front slash backslash equals to single comma double inverted comma and it's space. Fine. So let's define these invalid characters front slash backslash equals to single and double and then space. Oh, yes, that's an issue in Python. So let me check if it should work, I guess. We use escape sequences. Okay, just 1 second. Hmm. Python. Okay, yeah, fine. So we know the workaround. So if whenever you are using this inverted or double inverted commas inside a string in Python, you have to use the backslash character. Hmm. So whenever you are using some extra character, you have to define this backslash. So let's say you can't use this backslash directly because it's an escape sequence. Then again, this single inverted and double inverted commas are also escape sequences. So you can't define them in a string simply. You need to provide another backslash character before them to make it a valid string. Now these are invalid characters. Then what we have to do? We have to check the length. Fine. So let's start checking the function. If len of so let's save the password length into a variable is equals to len of if PL is less than 8 or PL is greater than 32. What we have to do? You have to print invalid password. Fine. Else, now what you have to check? We have to check these invalid characters should not be present in the password. So first we need to check the first character. So first character. So if password. So we all know that we can use slicing or indexing and slicing and indexing for Python lists as well as strings also. So if password is 0, not in valid characters, what we have to do? We have to print invalid password. Fine. Else, now, if the first character is fine, then what we have to do? You have to check just that the invalid characters should not be in the uh, password list. Other than that, everything is fine. Fine. So let's do a return here. Let's do a return here. As soon as we identify the password is invalid, just return from the function. And then finally, what we have to check for all the characters, char in password. If char is present in invalid characters, what we have to do? We have to print again invalid password. Now, again, return. Now, if none of these return statements were executed, then what we can say? We can say that the password is valid. So, valid password. Fine. And finally, the function exits. Fine. So, let's check valid password. Let's pass in some random string. So it says it's a valid password. Let's insert some random. Huh. Now I have inserted a backslash, then it says invalid password. Let's pass some other characters also. Let's pass an at the rate. It says valid because that was not an issue. Then there is a space, then again it's invalid. Now let's say we have a password having length less than 8, then again it is invalid password. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Am I audible? Anyone please confirm? Great. So do you have any doubts in this program? Someone is saying they have some doubts. So can you just explain what is the issue? So Anjali, you are saying so there is some doubt. Great. So let's move on to the next question. So you are given a list of marks. The marks list marks that contain the marks stored by a class of students in the mathematics test. Find the median marks and store it in a float variable named median. You can assume that the marks is a list of float values. Here we are given the procedure to find the median. So first we have to sort the marks in ascending order, and then what we have to do? If the number of students is odd, then the median is the middle value. If the number of students is even, then the median is the arithmetic mean of the two middle values in the sorted sequence. So we all know the idea behind finding the median of a list of values. The only thing that is important in this case is how to sort the list. Fine. So let's see how to write a program. So let's first define our program and then we'll solve it. Find median dot py. Fine. Now let's say we have our marks list given like this. That is a list of floats. Something sort of this. And we want to find the median value of this mark. So first thing we need to do is sort the list marks. Fine. How to do that? Everyone, do you know the basic sorting techniques, bubble sort and selection sort? Hello. So we'll be using selection sort for this. So if you know it, then it's good. If don't, then no issues. So how to do selection sort? So basically, what you have to do, find the minimum value element in the list. Then what we need to do? We store it at the begin beginning of the list. Fine. Then find the minimum value element in the list and repeat. So let's see the selection sort algorithm. So let's say we have a set of numbers that look like this: 11, 25, then 12, then 22, then 64. Let's create two lists, the sorted and unsorted one. Let's call the sorted list. So what we need to do? So, so 7, 7 cross 3. I mean, hmm. So let's create the sorted sublist, unsorted sublist, and minimum So basically least element in the sublist. Fine. So at start, initially we were blank and the unsorted list sublist looks like this: 5, 12, 22, and then 64. So what is the least element? Everyone, just iterate through this idea with me. So you all know the algorithm behind selection sort. What you do, you define a sorted sublist, an unsorted sublist, and in each iteration, what you have to do, you have to find the least element in the unsorted sublist and append to it to the end of the sorted sublist. So what is the least element? 11 here. So let's append it to the sorted sublist. Now we have the unsorted sublist. Fine. So what is the least element in this unsorted sublist? Anyone? So are you guys following this tutorial? Hello? Great. So let's again choose the least element in the unsorted sublist, 12. Then what you have to do, we have to simply append it to the sorted sublist. So 1, 11, count 12 and remove it from the unsorted sublist 6 like this. Now again, what is the least element in the unsorted sublist? It is 22. So append it to the sorted sublist and remove it from the unsorted sublist. Fine. Again, then 25. Fine. And then we are left with 64. So this is the only element. And then finally, you will observe that we get the sorted list and the unsorted sublist is blank. Fine. This is how you implement selection sort. So let's implement it. Let's define the function. Sorry, yeah. Def selection sort, and let's take in the input list. Let's call the list as marks, and then let's create the sorted list as a blank list. Now for simply while len of marks not equals to 0, what you have to do? Sorted dot append. No, this is not how I proceed. It's how we proceed. So, so just one thing, Python list demo. Fine, that is great. So we all know that there is a function list.remove. So we'll be using that function. So let's start. While len of marks, so while the unsorted sublist is not equals to 0, what you have to do? You have to get min least element. So basically least element equals to minimum of marks. Fine. Then what you have to do? You have to remove the least element. Man. And then what you have to do? You have to append that least element into the sorted list. Fine. Finally, what you have to do? You have to return the sorted list. So this is how this function works. Fine. Everyone, do you understand this logic? One thing to note here, that the remove function, there is a possibility that in the list there are more than one occurrences of a particular value. Then what happens? It removes the first occurrence of that element in the list. So let's say our list was something like this. There was 2.0 again. Now, if the minimum was 2.0 and you call list.remove 2.0, it would have deleted this element, not the last element. Fine. So this is how list.remove works. So now we have this selection sort algorithm, and then we have to write a function that computes the median. Fine. So we all know how to compute median. It's really simple. So first we have to sort the list. The first step was step one, sort the list. We already have the sorting function here. Fine. Then what we need to do, if length the list is odd, then median equals to element at middle index or element at length of list double divided by 2, basically integer division. So it gives the second last element plus 1. Fine. Else median is the element is the average of the elements, not 10 by 5. So average of the elements at index len of list divided by 2 minus 1, comma, len of list divided by 2. Fine. Everyone, do you agree with this logic? So am I audible? Great. So I hope now you understand the logic. So let's write up the final median function. Def get median, and we get the marks list. Now what we have to do? We have to change it to the sorted. So basically selection sort over marks. So you get a sorted list. Now if length of, so let's get the length of marks in a variable L equals to length of marks. So someone is saying if it is odd, then it will be len plus 1 by 2. That is true. Len plus 1 all by 2 is also correct. So len plus 1 by 2 or length of the list double divide, basically integer division by 2 will plus 1 give the same values. Fine. Now, if L modulo 2 is 0, that is it is even, then what we have to do, median is equals to, let's see, marks at L by 2 plus marks at L by 2 minus 1. Fine. Overall divided by 2. So this is the average of the mid values. Else median equals to marks at L plus 1 integer divided by 2, then return median. Fine. Let's use this marks list and find the median. So let's print median of the list marks is fine. Let's get median marks. Fine. Let's run this program and let's see the outputs. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So this is our list and the median is 5. Fine. This is how this program works. Anyone do you have any doubts in this program? So if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. Fine, let's move on to the next question. So I hope now by now you understand how to use selection sort algorithm to sort numbers in a given list. And then I was using that algorithm to compute the median of a list. Let's say we are given a list. Then what we have to do, we have to compute, convert it to lowercase and then sort the string. We are given a string as an input. What we have to do is we have to convert the string into is a lowercase string and sort the string in alphabetical order and print the sorting string in the console. You can assume the string will only contain letters. Fine. Fine. In Python, you can simply compare two characters like this using less than or greater than equals to comparison operators. Fine. So now we are given a string. First, we have to convert it to a lowercase string. So let's define our function def, and then what should be minimum of? We can also use the minimum functions over characters. Fine. Now def sort string, and we are given some text. Fine. Now what you have to do, text equals to text dot to lowercase. Fine. Now we have a lowercase string. Mm. It's just string dot lower. Fine. Now what we have to do, we have to sort this string. So we can use the same logic as the selection sort logic. So let's say we create a sorted text string, which is a blank right now. And now while length of text is not equals to 0, what you have to do, you have to update sorted text dot append. No, sorted text plus equals to minimum of text, text dot remove, minimum of text. Yeah. Then finally print the sorted string is sorted. Fine. Anyone? Do you have any doubts? So let's call sort string on something like this. Acha, there is no remove function in strings. So let's see Python string remove characters. Hmm. So for this, what we can do is we can use string dot replace the minimum character in the string, replace it with a blank, and then only replace one occurrence. So we are passing one here. Fine. Then let's see if our program works. Sort string. Let's pass something here. Okay, it is going in infinite loop. Text dot replace. Let's say we have, let's do some checks here. Now let's say text dot replace as with s and one. Okay, this was wrong. Replace s with a blank. Fine. And the first occurrence. So why this is not working? So let's simply print the string. Let's see what is happening after replacing the text. Print text. Lost. Let's call the function. So it's not actually replacing the characters. So why this is happening? So every time it is saying minimum is t, that's correct, but it's not removing it. So why this is happening? Hmm. So let's say our string is this, then I call text dot replace. Acha, there is a possibility that it is returning the text. It's so basically the issue was this call, this text dot replace is not changing the string in place. It's returning the modified string. So we need to store this value in a variable. So we have to update this text string here. That's why it was not working. So let's do this. And then you can see the sorted string is DDDFFSSSS. Fine. This is how you solve this program. Anyone do you have any doubts in this program? Anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. If you don't, then also type in the chat box. So no one is responding, so I believe no one has any doubts in this program. So should we proceed? Anyone please confirm that there are no technical issues and we can proceed. Uh, Great. So let's go on to the next question. Y- You are given the dates of birth of two persons, not necessarily from the same family. And you have to find the younger of the two. If both of them share the same date of birth, then the younger is of the two is assumed to be that person whose name come first in the alphabetical order. Fine. And names will be in the capitalized case, basically uppercase. Names are given uppercase. Fine. Let's try to solve. So let's do a check. So by alphabetical order, it only means that the characters you start checking the characters occurrences from the left from the starting character. If that the let's say in these two examples, the first character was less than second character. This is because A is less than Z. That's why this is true. So this is how we are checking. So we will be simply using the less than operator. Fine. The thing to worry here is how to compare times. Fine. So let's look at Python's time delta, date time. Fine. Okay, let's see. Python, two dates. So let's see what is the solution. Acha, we can simply use date time objects and then simply compare using the less than operator. So we all are familiar with Python's date time. So from date time import date date time. Fine. Now let's say we are given date of births and names of two persons, and we have to check if one which one of them is younger. So let's say we define person one. So class, I think you are not familiar with classes, so I should not do this. Let's say we define person one, name is something like Ram, then person two, and then person one date of birth is equals to date time. Let's say he was born in 1996 to Feb 7 Feb 1994. Fine. Then there is person two whose name is Shyam. Then let's call the first person as Radha. Then person two's date be date of birth be 1996 4/26. Then let's compare their date times. So if P1 underscore DOB is equals to P2 underscore DOB, if this is the case, then what we have to do? If check the names. If P1 underscore name is less than P2 underscore name, then print uh, P1 underscore name, comma, is younger, else print P2 underscore name is younger. Fine. And if that's not the case, if the date of births are not same, then what you have to do? Else, if P1 DOB is less than P2 DOB, then what you have to do? You have to print P1 underscore name is younger. Fine. Else P2 is younger. Is younger. Fine, everyone. So let's run this program and see. Someone is saying Radha is younger. So is this correct? Someone who is born in 1994, they should be younger? Anyone? Please confirm. Like if someone was born in 1994 and then other one was born in 1996, then who is younger? Anyone? So can you identify the issue in this program? Am I audible? Fine, assuming that you all know. The mistake is when we talk about younger in terms of the time age, then whenever the one who was born earlier, whose date of birth is greater than the both of two, is younger. Fine. So simply you have to replace this equals comparison, and now it is saying Shyam is younger. Right? No, we are not comparing name lengths with P1 name is less than P2 name. We are checking it alphabetically. So alphabetically, A is less than B. Fine. And let's say we have a string ABC. Let's say we have D ABC and then B ABC, ADC, let's say. Then also it is saying false because when you check lexicographically, you can see that D is not, B is smaller than D. That's why this string would come first in the dictionary than DABC. This is what we are checking with the less than operator. No, it checks us it does not checks on only first alphabet. It simply checks the order in which both the words will occur in a dictionary. So it is not necessary that the first alphabet gives you the answer. There is a possibility that the later alphabets might also give you the answer. Fine. So let's say we have some example like this: A B C D, A B C D, and then A B C C. Then again, you can see it is giving false. It's checking the last alphabet in this case. So it depends upon the order of. It depends on the word. It depends on word to word. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Fine, great. Let's move on to the next question. Write a function insert that accepts a sorted list L of integers as and an integer x as input. The function should return a sorted list with the element x inserted at the right place in the input list. The original list should not be disturbed in this process. So basically, we are given a list, sorted list, and we are given an element x. Now what we have to do, we have to insert the element x in the list such that the order is not changed. So such that the final list has to be sorted. Let's say we have the list 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. And now let's say we have inputting x equals to 4.5. Then the output should be 1, 2, 3, 4, then 4.5, then 5, then 6, 7, 8. Anyone, do you know how to do this easily? Hello? This is a really straightforward problem. Anyone, do you know how to solve this? So let me solve this for you guys. Fine. So let's call it def insert. Let's take a value x and the list L. And we all know that list L is sorted and we simply have to insert x in the list L. Fine. So let's create the final list, output list and call it a blank list for now. For iterate through all characters in the list L, if x is greater than I, then what means this is the place where x has to be located. Then what you have to do? Output list. hmm, Then what you have to do? You have to append output list dot append I and x. Fine. Else, what you have to do? Self only append the ith character. So we have not yet reached the correct location, and then simply return the output list. Fine. Let's call this over a sorted list. Def insert. Let's our x was 4.5 and the sorted list was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fine. Oh, sure. There is a mistake in our logic. If x is less than I, because we are starting from the least element, the first element. So you can see, acha, I'm appending x in the incorrect order now. So first you have to append x, then you have to append I. And once you have appended x, you don't need to do anything. So let's create a flag variable, flag equals to false. If x has been appended, so if flag, if not flag, and so if x has not been appended and this, then you have to do this, otherwise set flag to true. So let's create that, just change a few things. So if flag f is true, this means x has not been appended yet. If x has appended once, then don't do anything else. Fine. Let's call this function again. So now you can see the x is placed in the correct position. Anyone? Do you have any doubt? Anyone? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Fine. So let's move on to the next question. Accept a sequence of words as input. Create a dictionary named real dict, whose keys are the letters of the English alphabet. For each key letter, hmm, the corresponding value should be a list of words that begin with this key letter. For any given key, the words should be appended to the corresponding list in the order in which they appear in the sequence. You can assume that all the words of the sequence will be in the lower case. Fine. So let's say we have a sequence of words like this. Word what? Let's call milk. Let's use some food products. Honey, then call chili, then call potato, then maybe bread, and then chia, something like this. Mango. Fine. So what you have to do, you have to create a dictionary where the key will be the first character. Key will be all the uh, whose keys are letters of the English alphabet. So let's create a so it would be A. Are there any correct thing? It's blank. Then for B, it would be bread. Fine. Then for C, it would be a chia. For D, it would be nothing. So basically blank. For E, it would, and so on. Fine. You have to create a dictionary, something like this. And how to do this in Python. So this is also help you to understand dictionaries in Python. So let's start. Word dict. Fine. And one important thing that they have stated in the problem statement is the order in which the elements are appended is the same as given in the input sequence. So def create word sequence dict. Fine. And let's take the list L. Fine. Let's create a dictionary D. Keep it blank. Now, what I have to do for I in, so we need to import the string library. So import string, and then I'm going to use string dot ASCII underscore lowercase. Fine, fine. So for each character in the lowercase string, what you have to do, you have to simply create a key for that and keep the value to be blank. So d at I is equals to a blank character for now. Is a blank list for now. Now what you have to do? You have to iterate through all the words in the list L, and then you have to update the value D at I at 0. So basically, if the word starts, the starting of the word, which is I at 0, starts with a key value, some character, then you have to simply append that word. Simply append that word to that particular dictionary. Then finally, return dictionary. Fine. Let's do this from word dict import create word prints dict. Fine. Now let's call this function create word sequence dict and call pass in a list. The list that we are using, like milk, honey, then chili, then potato, then bread, then chia. That's it. So now you can see it is saying it gives us a spits a dictionary containing all the alphabets in the English character, small letters as it keys, and the values are is a list containing all the words in the given input list that start with that particular character key value. So none of these starts with A, only one of these starts with V, which is bread. Then with C, two words start. One is chili, other is chia. So you can see they are occurring in this list in the same sequence as they were occurring in the input list. Then no, nothing starts with D, E, F, G. Then with H, honey starts. Then again with a milk and then potato. Everyone, do you have any doubts in this program? Anyone, do you have any doubts in this program? So basically, the important thing to identify here is you can use Python to solve a complex problem in very small number of lines. You can say our program is not more than 7 lines, and we are able to solve this program problem. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. Am I audible? Great. So anyone, do you have any doubt? Which kind of list are you talking about here? We are already using appending list to a dictionary. So the problem statement says that you have to use dictionaries. So that's why we are using dictionaries. If you want, you can use. No, the problem is stating you have to use dictionaries. Where dictionaries are used is something different. So why dictionaries are important in Python? So dictionaries always come in key value pairs. Fine. So when you define a dictionary, it contains some key and some value associated with it. Where these are useful, it depends. So why we need dictionary? That's a nice question. For this problem itself, let's say we wanted to identify all the words that started with C, fine? Or even you wanted to create such list, then how would you do that? You would simply create a list, multiple lists, a list for the character A, list for character B, list for character C, and so on, 26 list. And then you would append some values in those lists. This and that will be very painful because you would have to store a mapping between the list number, list name, and the character alphabet. So let's say you would have created a list like this, named it A equals to, and your values would be blank. So it's a blank list. Then again, B equals to bread. Fine. Similarly, C equals to chia and chili. C equals to chia and then chili, and so on. So dot dot dot. It would require 26 such lists. Fine. Now what we can do this, we can achieve this same thing using one single variable D, and it gives us the entire list in a single variable. Fine. Is this clear? Great. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. So let me explain this problem to you guys and then we can solve it. Fine. So let's say we are given a grid like this. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 cross 5 grid. Fine. Let's define our directions for motion in this grid. So the top direction is north. If you are moving right, then this is east. If you're moving bottom, then this is south. And if you're moving towards left, this is west. Fine. Now the grid goes like this. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 0, 1, 2, 3. Fine. Now, what this is the problem specification that is necessary for solving this problem. Now we will get to the problem itself. Fine. So it's a 4 by 5 grid. So it's a 4 cross 5 grid. Fine. It's a 4 cross 5 grid. And these are the possible this is a basically a compass that tells us, let's say if you are at a particular grid cell location, you can move. If you are moving east, then you jump to the next grid cell location. So let's say if you are at 0 comma 0, you go to 0 comma 1. That's it. Fine. Now the problem gives you a starting location in the grid cell. Let's say it's 0 comma 0. So let's say you are here, and it gives you a set of strings that defines your moves. Right? That define your moves. So let's say we are given a string east. Then what does this mean? You have to move from the location 0 comma 0 to location 1 comma 0 comma 1. So you have to come to this grid. Fine. Now let's say then there was a south motion from here. So is if as occurred in the string, then you would have to move to this grid. And this is at the location 1 comma 1. Then let's say there was north here, then you would go. So okay, south north is not good. So let's say now if there was a west here, then you would move towards the left grid. Fine. Then let's say there was another south here, so you would go bottom. Then another south, you again go to the bottom grid. Then there was an east. Then there was a west motion. Now the catch is, now you are at a boundary grid cell and you want to move towards the west. That is -1 comma 0 3 comma -1. So that is not possible because this location do not lie on the grid. So you don't have to move. So don't make this move. Then let's say it says move east. You can move east now. So just move from here. Just skip that movement and come here. Then it says north. Then you can go to the top grid again. Right? This is the motion that you are allowed. So if you are at a boundary cell and you are asked to jump out of the boundary, then you don't have to make that move. Fine. So these moves are not allowed. Fine, everyone. So do you understand the problem? Fine. So what we are given? We are given a grid N. Move in grid. Fine. So let's say we define N equals to input. Let's take user input. Please enter the start in grid location. Please enter the grid size. Assume that it's a square grid. So it will be a grid of N cross N. Then what we have to do? We have to uh, get a we have to start at index 0 1 comma 1, and then we have to get a input string so of moves. So we moves, please enter your moves. The string should contain east, west, north, east, south, west. That's it. Fine. Now you have to start in from 1 comma 0 1 comma 1. So for I in range 1 till grid cell and so basically that's not the case. So you know that the uh, let's say we call position x as the x position of the grid, and then position y equals to x y location on the grid. Fine. Then for move in moves, fine. If move equals to east, let's start with east. Fine. Let's assume that the input string moves can only contain four characters: A, E, east, west, south, north. That's it. Fine. Now check. So if you are moving towards east, then your let me do this. Create this grid. So this was the motion that we were discussing. Fine. East, west, north, south. So if you are moving east, then and let's say you have position x comma y, then if you are moving one step towards the east, then what happens? X is basically the row number and y is basically the column number. So you end up at position x comma y plus 1. Now if you move north, then you end up at location x minus 1 comma y. If you move west, then you end up at location x comma y minus 1. And if you move south, you end up at location x plus 1 comma y. Fine. Everyone, do you understand these moves? Fine. So now what we have to do? Now, if move is east, then let's define the new x variable. So you have new x will be x itself, pose x, and new y will be pose y plus 1. Fine. So let's define new x equals to -1 and new y equals to -1 initially. Now, if new y if new y is gr greater than is equals to n. No, if it is greater than n, then what does this mean? So basically you are incrementing y, and if it is greater than, mean that it is outside the grid. So basically outside the grid move. So basically it's a move outside the grid. Then what you have to do, you have to make new y equals to pose y itself. You don't have to make the move. Else, if that's the case, then you don't have to move. Right? Now, if move equals to west, if you're trying to move in west, then new x equals to x and new y gets decremented. So new x is basically pose x and new y equals to pose y -1. Now what you have to check, if new y equals to -1, fine. If new y is equals to -1, then you are already outside the move outside the grid. What you have to do, you have to set new y equals to pose square y. That's it. And if move equals to north, east, west, north. Now if you are going in the north, the new x equals to pose x +1 and new y equals to pose _y. And if new x is greater than n, is equals to -1. So basically it will be, if you are moving north, you are subtracting x by 1. Then new x equals to pose x. Fine. So if you are making a move towards north, then you also have to check if it is outside. If move is south, then you have to simply update new x to pose your x +1, and then new y equals to pose _y. Acha. Hmm. And then if new x is greater than n, then again you are outside, so you don't have to do anything. So new x equals to pose x. Fine. Finally, what you have to do, you have to update the pose x and pose y value. So pose x equals to new x, and pose y equals to new y. Fine. And then you have to print after the moves you have reached the location pose x, comma pose _y. Everyone, do you have any doubts? Anyone? So this was the simple program. Now let's run it and let's see what is happening. Please enter the grid size. Let's say we are defining the grid size to be 10 by 10. Let's define the moves: east, west, north, south, north, west, east, west, north, south, something randomly. Okay. N has to be integer. Sorry. Yeah, there was a mistake in the program. Let's run this again. So let's define the grid size to be 10, and let's define the motion. Then after the moves, you have reached the location 4, 0. Fine. Everyone, do you have any doubts in this program? Anyone do you have any doubts in this program? Please type in the chat box. Fine. Let's move on to the next question. So let's say we are given two words. Let's say we are given two words, word one and then word two. CD. So we have to return the distance between the words, word one, comma, word two. Incha, पाँच. Now, how this distance is calculated? If the words are of same length, then the distance is the distance between each character of the words. So basically each character at corresponding index. So index 0 is compared with index 0, index 1 is compared with index 1, A is compared with E, B is compared with D, and so on. If the words are not of the same length, then the distance is -1. This is a pretty simple program. Everyone, let's solve this. So let's do some check. A minus E is okay, fine. So we can use ASCII values for letters. ASCII values for letters in Python. No, Python convert string, sorry, character to ASCII. So you can use the ORD function to get the ASCII value of a character. So we all know the ASCII values. They are the values associated with each characters in a programming language. So ORD of A minus ORD of E gives us a distance between these two characters. Fine. Let's solve this program. So let's say def dist words, and we have word one comma word two. If length of W1 is not equals to length of W2, what you have to do? You have to return -1. Else, what you have to do? Let's create the dist variable, which initializes to 0 for I in range length of any of the words because they have the same length. Dist plus equals to absolute value of ORD of, basically ASCII value of W1 at I minus ORD of W2 at I. Fine. And then what you have to do, return dist. So let's call this function dist words at ABCD, comma EBCD. It should give 4. Now let's say the length was different, then it gives -1. Now let's say the length was same, it counts the distance between these two words. Right. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Do you understand the logic? I hope you do understand the concept of ASCII values assigned to each characters in a programming language. So this was the last final session. That was a summary session for the course introduction, the joy of programming using Python. So I hope you all enjoyed these sessions very well, and I hope you guys all the best for the tests that you will be having. So yeah, that's it. So now, so that's it. Yeah. Hmm. Fine. So yeah, it is the program is giving the this total distance between all the characters. So at the same indexes. So the character at 0 is compared with character at index 0 in both the words. Character at index 1 is compared with the character at 1 in both the words. Fine. So that's it for today's session. If you have any queries, there are 2 more minutes left. You can type in the chat box or you can leave the session. Yeah.